you're in Europe
Yeah,
and you have a lot of members in Europe.
we do. It's our second biggest contingent of membership outside of North America.
Are they expressing any different challenges right now?
Well, sure. I mean, I think that people are curious about our geopolitical, if you will, our slant right now. And do all Americans feel that way? So there's a kind of a curiosity about, gosh, where's everybody feeling and lining up with the messaging? But the interesting thing about incentives is I have been asking around, gosh, are you canceling incentives because of this kind of push right now? And we're not seeing cancellations widespread of incentives. And I think that's largely because these are planned really far out. These are marquee programs at very top level properties in very top level in demand locations. And it's rewarding behavior that happened over the last year. So to take away something that many top achievers feel is part of their comp package, it just wouldn't bode well for business. So where you might be feeling, some agency members who I talk to, they might see their clients holding off on booking some regular meetings, some regular business group meetings because we're seeing what's happening with politics. Incentives we're not seeing that with incentives. So a little bit recession proof, maybe a little bit immune to some of the buzz that's going on. And that's just kind of the fortunate place incentives are.
How about future bookings? In our most recent research for our Pulse survey, it showed that it's a little soft at the end of the year. And there's also some hesitancy right now because of uncertainty of booking.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, so that could be all it's kind of sentiment data. And I don't know where, like, say, Cvent is showing. What is Cvent showing for future bookings? I think it kind of goes back to that same thing. If the company believes that incentive travel is a critical part of the reward cycle, then we're going to be fine with that. I think it's because you can't really replicate an incentive travel program any other way. I mean, you could hand them a gift card or hand them a pot of money and say, go travel on your own. But our research shows that the key stakeholders, the people who own the budgets at the companies, are clear. 76% feel that it is the most powerful reward and they would not remove it. And so even in this era of, hyperbolic headlines and everything else, it's that we've seen it with other recession type indices. Incentives are kind of the first to come back and the last to be taken away. So I think it's our job just as incentive professionals to make sure that our whole community understands how to communicate the power of these programs, because experiential rewards are still kind of the number one thing that these qualifiers are saying speaks to them. I think you are probably seeing a hesitancy, maybe not a full not booking, but maybe they're taking longer to make decisions. And that's a little bit more of an indication or a result of the economy being what it is. So gosh, any of us that have looked at the stock market recently, it's like an EKG readout. And that's where I think companies are saying, gosh, budget is a concern. Maybe we don't want to book that money, book that program, spend that money right now because what's happening with the stock market. But the interesting thing, our data, we have that one annual report that we do called the Incentive Travel Index. And last year, the two top things, and this is before our change of regime here in the States, right? The two top concerns were budget and safety and welcomeness of the destination. So I still think that those were concerns coming into the political change in the States. And there still are the concerns because we're seeing airfare and hotel. Those are the two biggest buckets of spend for incentive travel. And if you just take hotels, the properties that incentives look at are the really nice upper scale properties. And those are in very big demand as everybody's traveling again. And so those prices, the demand is good for hotels right now. Those prices are going to be risen. And then we're seeing airfares kind of all over the map lately, aren't we? And that the longer haul trips or these incentive programs, we're going to invest in airfare. So I think we're seeing a little hesitancy to maybe pull the trigger on some of these programs, but they're not necessarily saying we're going to take them out of rotation because it's such a critical part of the reward package for these achievers.
Yeah. That also came out in our survey about the budgets being very flat.
Yeah.
And from what I'm hearing, and I'm curious if you're hearing this from your members, that's a big frustration because they say it's very hard to produce something of quality or the same quality that they've done in the past.
Boy, it's so true. And that's where incentive travel professionals really earn their paycheck, right? Because the thing about incentive travel, it really is the entirety of the experience. It is that beautiful resort and that beautiful property. It is that amazing destination. But then it's also when you're there, going out and experiencing that destination. And that takes investment. But that is really the full package of these trips and what really motivates these qualifiers to want to win it. So to say, hey, let's pull back on that. Let's cut the budget or keep the budget flat. Well, these meeting professionals are now going to have to figure a way. Boy, they're going to maybe just not do an event now in an afternoon or not do a group activity here. They're going to take away a gifting experience, which again is a real part of the reward package. And I think it's hard to convince sometimes the C-suite budget holders that, hey, that all matters. It looks like, hey, you can just cut that or it's a nice to have, but really the whole experience is what makes these people feel so valued and overperform to win that whole experience. But you're right, your data is consistent with ours that budgets are flat and they're seeing the biggest reduction in investment was around activities and agency fees.
Mhm.
So that's the other pressure.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yes.
interesting.
I've heard that. So that would be like third parties and
Yeah,
DMCs.
exactly. So I think if you're the corporate owner of the budget and you're saying, gosh, I didn't get any more money, so I'm going to turn to my partners and say, you've got to sharpen your pencil for me because we still want to go to this amazing destination and have this experience, but you have to cut your pricing now for me. So I think you're really seeing the squeeze on our intermediaries, whether it's the DMC or the third party company stuff.